If you're considering moving to Ashland, Oregon, maybe you're relocating for work or you're trying to find that perfect retirement destination, this video right here has everything you could ever imagine in terms of information, from the best and the worst parts of towns to the pros and cons of the area, a driving tour, and even interviews with locals who share what they love and what they hate about living in Ashland, Oregon. So enjoy this super video, and please don't hesitate to reach out. If there's anything I can do to help you, my contact information is below, or you can find it in the description of this video. We are starting on Granite Street, which is one of the best locations. So I'm just gonna start out swinging here right out of the gate, showing you my favorite neighborhood, okay? So Granite is awesome because it is so close to the plaza. But this neighborhood is so awesome because like you have these homes like the one right here to the right here. They're just these old historic homes. They're gorgeous homes and really just great location, very, very desirable. So we're gonna scope out this neighborhood and several of the others, including one where you can find some really, really incredible deals that are newer construction, and just kind of show you all around the great spots here in Ashland, Oregon. This one that we're passing right here on the right is listed for over $4 million. It is really something special. So killer house, really, really spectacular location, which is what you will get in this neighborhood. So, and why it's so popular. So we're gonna take a right here on Nutley. If we take a left, that would take us back down towards the plaza and Lithia Park. But we're gonna take a right and I'm gonna show you just some of the other parts of this neighborhood. So one of the nice things about this area is that you could find a real good deal, like probably, on one of these streets, Pine Street, or further up Nutley. You could sneak in here in the 500 range if you find a really, good deal in a place that needs to be updated, like the one we're passing right now. And you could also spend, millions of dollars if you buy a place that's, really spectacular, like the one we just passed previously that's currently on the market. So you also get deer in your yard like you see over here on the left. Kind of a fun little Ashland thing. Anyways, though, there's a lot of variety in these neighborhoods, anywhere from like I said, the real high end to something more attainable, but you still end up with places that are actually, close to town, very, very walkable, to get to the restaurants, to get to the Lithia Park, to get to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. I'm gonna go back up Granite again here on the right, and then we're gonna take that left to just give you an idea of how close we really are to Lithia Park and Plaza. So you can check that out because it is super close. If you continued on Granite Street up here and just continue to drive up here, you would go past Lithia Park and would take you to the trailhead where there's really like some great hiking options and biking, mountain biking, all sorts of stuff like that. So great location here, and clearly, why it's one of my favorite neighborhoods in the Ashland area, and that's the Granite Street, Pine Street, Nutley, that kind of area in there. So check it out if you're looking in Ashland, and then we are going to make our way over to the next neighborhood. But you're seeing Lithia Park here on the right, and we're gonna make our way to the next neighborhood. So as we make our way to our next stop, we're gonna come right through the plaza, as you can see here, and we're gonna make our way over to what I'm gonna call the Ashland Hills neighborhood. And so in Ashland, because it's a smaller town, population is around 20,000, you don't really have like official neighborhoods necessarily, like named neighborhoods. It's more like, the general area, or the kind of like the main streets of that area. Whereas I know like larger towns, you end up with gated communities or whatever that have actual like specific names. So that's not really the case in Ashland, and honestly in most cities around Southern Oregon. We tend to just have things named more after like the street and stuff that they're on. So we're gonna go up into the hills up here by the Oregon Shakespeare Festival and take a peek at the homes up in here. And we're going up Pioneer Street right now, and that's the world famous Oregon Shakespeare Festival on our right, the America's first Elizabethan theater. Super cool deal there, so make sure you catch a play there if you are in town. But yeah, these are really good neighborhood in this part of town because of its proximity to downtown. You could very easily, take a quick hike down and be at the restaurants and all those sorts of things right downtown. So super good location for that, and great views, which I don't know if you're able to see, but the views are spectacular. So we're gonna continue on down here, and then we'll kind of take a right and we'll loop back up the hill a little bit so you can see a little bit more of the area. But we're gonna go down to Gresham Street, which is where we're heading to right now. Okay, here we go. So we're going on to Gresham Street and working our way up the hill. And that's, again, like one of the things Ashland's pretty well known for is the hills. And so to get, you know, up the hill and get some nice views, like that's what is very desirable. But if you're in this area, I mean, you can expect to pay, you know, 600 all the way into the, you know, multi-millions, depending on the home, of course. But you know, I've seen listings in here above $2 million that are really nicely restored old homes, or you know, maybe a newer contemporary style home that's been built. And there's a lot of that goes on up here. A lot of just, you know, restoring and building really fancy, you know, luxury homes on lots that maybe, you know, had an older home on it that needed to be torn down or whatever. So, but you do get, again, spectacular views. But yeah, a lot of these homes in this area are built into, you know, built into the hillside. They're generally going to be multi-level, have some sort of basement, you know, component to them, a daylight basement, which is pretty typical of homes on a hillside. So may not be the best neighborhood if you're looking for a place to like teach your kid how to ride a bike, because it's pretty steep in some spots. So this is Terrace Street that we're coming up to here, but we're about at the top of the hill. And again, there's, you know, if you were to continue straight on this dirt road here in front of us, that'll kind of wind you around the hill. Good little walking path. Obviously you see this gentleman with his dog going for a little stroll, but seems to be a pretty popular place to do it for a lot of folks. And now we are back onto Hillcrest Street. We're gonna take a left and head back in towards town and go visit our next neighborhood, which is really cool because it has all sorts of newer construction going on there. It's not quite as expensive. You can get into there under $1 million. So I'm really excited to show you that one. We're gonna cruise on that away. A little bit narrow on the streets here in some spots, but look at that view. I mean, just gorgeous view of the Ashland Springs Hotel is the building that you're seeing there in front of us, that nice big historic looking building. Beautiful, beautiful hotel. Great wedding venue, all that kind of stuff. Really a special place. So definitely, you know, check that out if you're looking for a nice hotel to stay at when you're visiting Ashland or Southern Oregon in general. It's really a popular spot because it's nice. Probably the nicest hotel in Southern Oregon, but also just its proximity to all of the restaurants and the shops and all that. It's one of the few places where you can stay and actually, you know, walk down to go get to the plaza and all the restaurants and fun stuff that it has to offer. So we're heading over to it's called Randy Street, and Otis and Coffee. It's kind of all the streets over in that area. But now we're coming right back down the one that we came up previously with the Shakespeare Festival on our left. Ashland Springs Hotel over here to the right, another block down. Crossing over Main Street here, which is the main street, if you can believe that. That's the one that we came up to get here that one way. So anyways, there are some other hotels, like you can see, you know, the Bard's Inn and some of these other places that are close to town or close to the downtown area here in Ashland, and, you know, offer kind of some of the same stuff like Ashland Springs in terms of the proximity. But Ashland Springs Hotel is just known for being the real like high-end luxury place. So this is a cool part of Ashland too. I'm glad we're kind of cruising through here. It wasn't on my list of the, you know, my favorite neighborhoods in Ashland, but it is actually really cool, and I'm glad you're getting to see it. But this is basically Hershey Street, Hellman Street, this kind of area, and again, it's like you can tell like, this is a pretty neighborhood, a lot of nice homes, more affordable definitely than the last neighborhood we were just in, the Ashland Hills and that Granite Street area. Definitely more affordable over here, but still a lot of the same charm. I mean, you get some of these bigger old homes that are, you know, early 1900s and stuff like that, and really, you know, pretty place. But this is the neighborhood that I was talking about. So this is all, you know, these are all newer homes selling in the 6-7 range, all the way on up to $1 million. I think they're actually probably in the 7 and 8 range now, and all the way on up to $1 million for the bigger homes that you're seeing. So really, you know, beautifully well-kept neighborhood, great new development, and nice to see, you know, this in Ashland, because they definitely needed it. Needed a lot more housing. So really nice little neighborhood. Okay, so we're gonna take a right on Coffee Lane, and then on the left you'll see the cottages, those white cottages. Really a cool idea. I'm a big fan of that, because they definitely made it, you know, attainable for people. They have a big solar panel set up in there that I don't know exactly how that works, but I've heard that it's set up to help supplement the power there for the residents. So great idea for sure, and just, you know, love the new kind of innovative approach there. So if you're interested in those, let me know, because I don't think I even introduced myself. Brian Simmons with eXp Realty. So obviously happy to help with anything I can do real estate wise. All my contact information is in the description of this video, so you can find that. You can call me, text me, whatever you would like. We're gonna continue to cruise on to our next neighborhood now, which is really cool. It's one of my favorites, actually. I have a client buying a home in this neighborhood right now, and it is just a really cool place. Definitely worthy of making the list, because it has, similar to where we were just out on Randy Street, it has some newer construction and that kind of stuff. And just a very nice job, you know, of making sure all the homes look good, and the designs that they have, all that kind of stuff. Really, really well done. Okay, so this is getting into the next neighborhood. This is called the North Mountain area, and it's North Mountain Park is what you see right across the street from us, which is a really cool park, you know, nice pretty park with baseball fields and those sorts of things, lots of walking paths and all that. So really a nice park to have, and it's pretty good size too. It goes quite a ways, and there's Bear Creek runs through it. Stuff. So a lot of neat stuff going on there. But we're going to turn left here. North Mountain continues on straight ahead, and there's some more homes and cool little neighborhoods and stuff in that, you know, up there. But this is one that I thought was really a nice place to show, because it's just, I mean, the houses in here are newer, really pretty. You know, good job to the builder of making this place look really nice. And one of the things I really enjoy about these neighborhoods in Ashland is they didn't just cut like a grid, like a normal, just the streets are all gridded out. You find these neighborhoods where it's like they're all like turns, and they just feel, there's turns in the road, and they just feel natural, which is really cool. I think they did a really nice job of planning these, you know, subdivisions out when they started building them. But as you can see, more construction going on here. Some beautiful homes going to be built in there, which is awesome. And we're going to go back out to the main road, show you the rest of this, because really pretty neighborhood, I think. So much landscaping, and you know, everything, everybody's yard looks nice and all that good stuff. We'll loop back out onto North Mountain, and I'll take you down to those other neighborhoods that I mentioned right before we pulled in here, and just kind of show you what that looks like, because it is pretty cool, and it's worth seeing. So, and we're over here, so why not, right? The cool thing about that area that we're gonna go to is they have these retirement homes in there. You know, if you're looking for that type of a place, you can get into those for, you know, 300s, and which is pretty affordable, but they are really expensive for the monthly HOA fees, but they include meals. So I've seen some of the HOA fees monthly that are, you know, over $1,000, but it includes a meal plan. So I think that's an important thing to know. And again, more of the park all around us here. But yeah, they're really, you know, it's a unique concept where they provide meals and all those sorts of things. So it's kind of like an assisted living, but it's, you know, kind of one step down from that, because you don't actually have a nurse or somebody there to help you. So Yeah, but anyways, there's some of those in this neighborhood, and along with, you know, just these nice homes. So I'm just gonna drive down here and show you guys. Have this nice park and walking path, and it goes along Bear Creek. Yeah, just nice, pretty area. Some good buildable lots in here if you're wanting to do some new construction. KDA Homes is a good, you know, great local builder who has built a lot of these homes in Ashland, and they build a really nice home. So if you're looking for new construction, a lot of pretty good options here in Ashland. Okay, we are gonna make our way over to our next area, which is the East Hills. I don't know if you can even call it really a neighborhood, because it's kind of like the more rural part of Ashland. So if you want to be in Ashland, but you wanted some acreage, you know, a few acres to a lot of acres, honestly, you could probably find places in there that are 50+ acres. But they're up on the hill to the left here that you'll see, which is beautiful. And you get these incredible views of Ashland. And so, you know, when we were in like the Ashland Hills and those sorts of areas, you got views back over the hills. Over here are the East Hills, and it's really pretty to have those views. But when you're on the East Hills, you're looking back at Ashland, I think that might even, it might be better. I don't know. They're really, both really pretty. So hard to say which is better, honestly. But here on this side, you get a lot of vineyards. You get just some really spectacular homes that you'll see here shortly. We'll kind of cruise over to a street called Pompadour, and I'll show you what that's all about. You'll see some really amazing estates. So we'll hustle on over there. Okay, so we're gonna cruise across the Interstate 5 right here and make our way up towards the Pompadour area, kind of Valley View Road area, and you'll start to see some really beautiful homes pop up that will pass in this neighborhood. So again, like, you get a little bit more space. So if this is, you know, if you really love Ashland and you're looking for a place that's kind of has like still the Ashland vibe, or is close to Ashland, or you're working Ashland, or whatever the case is, but you want more space, maybe you want to have some horses, or whatever the case is, you want some pasture land, this is really going to be, you know, a great option to consider, this area over here. And as you get higher up into the mountains, you know, you can go up, there's two different highways, Green Springs Highway and Dead Indian Memorial Highway, and they both go up and start to get into the Cascade Mountain range up there, and you can get higher elevation, get up to some of the higher mountain lakes, like Hyatt Lake and Lake of the Woods and Howard Prairie, and those up there, and there's some cool cabins and all that up there. And I get a lot of people that are, you know, wondering, they'll send me listings like, "Wow, this place looks so good. How come it's, you know, cheaper than a lot of the other homes that they're seeing in Ashland or around with the acreage?" And the reason is the highway to get up there, the Green Springs Highway or Dead Indian Memorial Road, both of those are really windy and pretty steep. And so if you don't like, you know, those steep, windy roads with a big drop off on the side, you're probably not gonna like that area. I mean, you probably will love the area because it's beautiful, but you're not gonna like, you know, how you have to get there. Which is pretty tough, especially if it's in the winter season. If you get snow and that kind of stuff, those roads can be pretty brutal. That tends to be a deterrent to a lot of people looking, because it's 45 minutes or so to get back down the hill, down a real windy road, and that can turn a lot of people off. There is a shorter way to get to where we're going. I wanted to just take you guys kind of the back way on this Valley View Road, just to show you what it looks like, because this is a tour of the neighborhood. This isn't a let's get there the fastest way we possibly can. So just wanted to give you a heads up if you're thinking, man, there's, you know, kind of a convoluted way of getting there. There's a much faster way. So we're just kind of taking the scenic route, because that's what this is all about, right? But again, like really nice, pretty views of the mountains. I don't know if you can see, but off to the left, you probably can't see it, but Mount Ashland is up there. And really, I mean, cool to see that with its snow-capped, you know, peaks and all that. Really, really pretty. So I missed the turn to Pompadour, it turns out. So we're gonna make our way back, but I did want to show you that part anyways. I just missed the turn in the beginning. So that is an area that's all part of the same neighborhood, the East Hills. Glad you got to see that. Now we're gonna circle back and go to the Pompadour area, because that's the one that has really, really amazing homes that you got to see. But this section, this is kind of the main exit for Ashland. And so again, this is, you know, good spot to see. If you wanted to go into town, if you're coming from Medford, you would get off at this exit here. You would take a right where that car is going to take a right. And then to get into Ashland, you just continue on down here. And if you see that stoplight up in the distance, you would take a left at that stoplight. We're going to take a left right before that stoplight and do a little backtrack to get to our destination and show you the rest of that neighborhood in the East Hills. Okay, so we are making our way into the Pompadour neighborhood right up here. And yeah, I mean, just a beautiful, beautiful part of the valley. We're going to take a right onto Pompadour right here at the stop sign. But this area, I mean, you could tell is just gorgeous. Like there's so many, you know, bigger estates and vineyards and horse properties, all sorts of really, really cool stuff out here. And it's just a pretty time of year to be here when it's all green like this in the spring. So sometimes it gets a little, if it's a dry summer, this kind of green can turn brown and those sorts of things. But man, this time of year it is super pretty. Wildflowers and all that kind of stuff going on as it's, you know, late spring right now, but nice and green and looking good. And hopefully you can see off to the right here some of the views that you get of Ashland from up here. Got some walkers, a really cool area. There's some nice views for you. This is a good example of what you can get in this area looking back towards Ashland. Some really, really pretty stuff. And as we take our right here on Pilot View, you'll see even better how beautiful this area is. Okay, so after a quick little detour to check out that view, we're going to continue on down Pompadour. You can see a really beautiful home there on the left. We'll continue on down to our right and head down the hill. But this is definitely one of my favorite parts of Ashland, just because it's, you know, you're still close enough to town to be able to hop in for a bite to eat at one of the great restaurants, but it just feels like you're in the country. And you're only a few minutes from downtown, you know, at the plaza where we started. So not a bad place at all. We are downtown here at the Ashland Plaza. I'm going to give you a little bit of a walk around, a little tour of the downtown area, because you might be thinking about moving to Ashland, or maybe you're just visiting. You want to know, what is the downtown area all about? So I'm going to walk you around, show you some of my favorite spots, show you what Ashland is known for, and give you a little tour. So why don't we go ahead and start that right now with the best place to start a tour in Ashland, which is the Plaza. So that's where we're at right here. And one of the things that we're really famous for in Ashland is the Lithia water. And so you see the fountain there behind me, and this one right here, and even the little sign here that talks all about what the Lithia water is. It's actually mineral water, and I'm going to read the sign so I don't get it wrong, because I was about to say it's actually lithium that's in the water, but that's what's in batteries, not in the water. So it's barium is what's in it. So it tastes gross. So but if you're in Ashland, you should check it out, because it's kind of one of the things that we are famous for here. So anyways, we're gonna cruise around. Again, this is the Plaza that you see behind me. So it's the area that's kind of most popular, but it's the kind of the starting point. That's where a lot of the really good restaurants are and all that sort of stuff. And so probably the best place to start a tour. But we're gonna cruise our way up Main Street here and show you some of the different restaurants and just kind of what we got going on around here. We're actually gonna make our way up to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. So before I forget, I'm gonna tell you at the end what my favorite restaurant in Ashland is. I'm gonna show you exactly where it is, because it is spectacular. And if you're coming to Ashland, you cannot miss it. So if you catch me breathing a little hard, it's because Ashland's got some hills. And I'm not a marathon runner or anything, so hills definitely affect me. But anyways, we cruising up the way here towards the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and all you have right on the side of the main street here is a bunch of different restaurants, sushi restaurants, a couple different bars, all sorts of good stuff, lots of art galleries, and you'll see that as we continue on as with our little walk here. But on the right behind me, this is all kind of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival building, and we're going to turn onto Pioneer Street and continue on up the hill to where the Oregon Shakespeare Festival is, which you can see behind me up there. But show you just a little bit of a view around. So continue on up here, show you what this place is all about. The Oregon Shakespeare Festival, if you don't know, is probably what Ashland is most famous for, and it probably brings the largest number of tourists into the area. It's really incredible. The sign up here, you'll see in a second, says that it's America's first Elizabethan theater. And I'm not a arts buff and don't know a whole lot about Shakespeare and all that, but I will tell you, this is actually attracts people from all over the world to come see plays here at the Elizabethan Theater in Ashland at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. So it's a little bit of a hike up that hill, so excuse my heavy breathing. But what a view behind me. And that's one of the things that's really cool is because of these hills, you get some really incredible views of the surrounding area. And that's one of the nice things about Ashland. It's very, very beautiful. So that's the Oregon Shakespeare Festival right there behind me. Lots of great plays, like Shakespeare, different plays. And they're not all Shakespeare. There's several different types. But anyways, that's what that's all about. So check them out if you're in town. You get a really cool experience there watching the plays and in the various different performances that they have. So we will continue on down the hill here and make our way up towards the Ashland Springs Hotel, which is pretty incredible. Really nice hotel right in the middle of town, walking distance to everything, bars, restaurants, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, art galleries, anything you can imagine. It's all within walking distance. So pretty cool. Beautiful venue for weddings, been a number of weddings there, and just a nice building. And I'll show you a picture of it as we walk up there. What you get along the way here, I'm just going to turn it around so you can kind of see up the street. It's really cool. Beautiful trees, you know, line the streets, and just again, like more really nice shops, boutique-y kind of shops, art galleries, restaurants, all sorts of different businesses like you'd see at the normal, you know, touristy type towns. That really done a good job of, you know, updating the towns and making them look real nice for, you know, attracting tourism. So Ashland is no exception. They've done a great job of that. This is Varsity Theater right here behind me, movie theater in Ashland. So another cool spot. And I think that's where they host the Ashland Independent Film Festival, if I remember correctly. And that's another big thing that draws, you know, a lot of people in to Ashland is this, you know, those different types of, I don't know, events that are really like arts centric. Yeah, it's something that's kind of unique about Ashland here in Southern Oregon. But this is the Lark's, the restaurant in the Ashland Springs Hotel, which is really good. It's been a while since I've been there, but last time it was fantastic. And this is the Ashland Springs Hotel. So you can see kind of the grand entrance there. Really pretty place. And we'll cross over the street so you can get a good look at it in the background. Anyways, this is the big one-way that kind of goes through town here. But hopefully you can see the Ashland Springs Hotel behind me because it's really pretty. So I'll kind of zoom it up so you can see up and down, but really beautiful building. Very historic, and again, like lots of cool stuff in there. Wedding venue, great restaurant, beautiful rooms. So probably the nicest hotel in Southern Oregon, in my opinion. So if you're coming to visit, coming to check out some houses, that's a great place to stay. And I should probably mention, I'm Brian Simmons with eXp Realty. So if you're thinking about buying or selling here in Southern Oregon, I'd be more than happy to help you, show you around, all that fun stuff. So my contact information is in the description of this video, or it's probably up on the screen right now, actually. So feel free to hit the pause button and give me a shout if there's anything I can do to help you. But otherwise, let's continue on with a little tour here. So again, you know, just kind of more shops and those sorts of things as we cruise down this side of the street, busy street. So there's some, you know, traffic and stuff, obviously, but loads of just great art galleries and all these different things, right? So one of my favorite stores, especially when I was a kid, is coming up here that I think you're gonna really like. I'm not gonna spoil it until we get there, but I'll tell you what, if you come into town, you come into Ashland or Southern Oregon in general, and you have children with you, it's a place you're definitely gonna want to stop, or they're gonna want to stop at least, because it's awesome. So that's coming right up here in a second. If you look up behind me, you can see the hills in the background, and so a lot of like hiking and biking in those hills, and that's something that a lot of people in Ashland do. And it's super popular for all the kind of outdoor recreational activities and stuff like that, hiking, biking, and even the lakes. There's Immigrant Lake, which is really a great lake for paddleboarding and kayaking, those sorts of things. So a lot of, you know, activity, a lot of like recreating going on here. That's kind of one of the big things that Ashland's well known for, is just all those different opportunities that exist. So another thing that Ashland's well known for, and again, let me get a good shot behind me here of the plaza, because we're kind of making our way back down towards the plaza, and that's it behind me. Really just pretty, like lots of green, beautiful landscaping, all that kind of stuff. But what I was gonna say, the other thing that Ashland's well known for is just its real like priority it places on the environment, and that's one of the things that's kind of a commonality among a lot of the residents, is just like that really, you know, a lot of emphasis on being environmentally friendly and sustainable and all that kind of stuff. And here is the store I was talking about. This is the one that you're gonna want to check out when you're in Ashland. Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. Kids are gonna love it. I remember coming and getting caramel apples when I was a kid, and they're so good. If you can see those in the background right here, those are awesome. So anyways, definitely worth scoping out. But yeah, I have no affiliation with Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory or the Ashland Springs Hotel, just as a FYI. But if they wanted to, you know, kick me a free room or something for a date night with the wife, wouldn't be opposed to that. Or maybe a free caramel apple for the mention. I don't know, just throwing it out there. But anyways, so another great shot at the plaza here. Really just you can tell why, you know, so many people enjoy coming here and seeing this place. It's really pretty. So we're gonna take a left up here, go back through the plaza, and I'm gonna show you where that favorite restaurant is of mine, which is right up here on the plaza. And there's more to downtown Ashland than just what I'm showing you. This is just kind of the main area, but there's a lot of other stuff that if you go down the other side streets and stuff like that, you'll find, you know, just more of the same, more restaurants, different cool little areas with little parks and different things like that. So anyways, definitely, you know, do some exploring when you're here visiting, or when you move here. It's definitely worth exploring. So another spot that I think you're gonna want to check out is this bakery right here called Mixed Bakery, and it's awesome. That's just kind of right here on the end of the line on the plaza. So you can see right behind me there, Mixed Bakery. And then just a bunch of different businesses, restaurants. Black Sheep Pub is great. Greenleaf, really good vegetarian kind of options and stuff there. Oberon's is a really unique bar. It's kind of funky. Really, like, I don't know how you even describe it. It's kind of like a Hobbit bar, but really cool to check out if you're in town. But again, just more, you know, great shops and boutique kind of stores, all sorts of fun stuff. My favorite restaurant is coming right on up here, so just hang tight. We're almost there. Right up here. Okay, it's called Osteria La Bricola, and it is down this alleyway. And that place is fantastic. So I'll walk around and show you kind of what that's all about, because it's really a great Italian place. Fantastic chef, really good food. And so I'll show you kind of what the back of that area looks like, because it's really nice little setting back there and worth checking out. But let's keep cruising. Now we're kind of getting away from the plaza, which you can see behind me still, and we're going to enter into the famous Lithia Park. So this is where we're gonna go check out. And I've talked about this place in a number of my videos, so you have probably seen it. If you haven't, check out some of my other videos on Ashland, and you'll see, you know, some really great shots of Lithia Park. But I'll take you for a quick little stroll through one piece of it, where you'll see a couple really cool things, like the creek, and there's a pond that's just beautiful. So we're gonna go through those really quickly here, and then I'm gonna show you that spot that's the back of the Italian restaurant, which is all right along the creek. Awesome spot to eat. And there's several other really good restaurants that have seating out there, so it's a good spot to see if you're in Ashland. So here's show you the pond real quick behind me. So Lithia Park, again, just gorgeous park. Lots of really cool trees and plants all throughout. Just find, you know, I've seen classes going on in here, like exercise classes, yoga classes, all sorts of fun stuff. Really just a very active type of a place, and very clean. They do a really nice job of keeping this very clean. So you see more behind me. I'm gonna cross over this way. So they have these bridges in various spots that go over the creek, but my gosh, look at how beautiful that is behind me. All those pink flowers, really cool. So I'm gonna show you creek behind me. There, really cool shot. And yeah, that's goes all the way through Lithia Park. Really, I mean, just gorgeous stuff. Yeah, so let's cruise down here a little bit, and this is where there's really good parking. So if you're trying to find a spot to park downtown Ashland, to go to like a restaurant or whatever, if you come on past the plaza and take, you know, a right, you'll come up onto the street here, and there's parking all along the street. So it's a good option for sure. Probably the most likely place that you'll find parking, if you're trying to go eat downtown or something. So that's just a little tip for you, where to go, because it can be tough. Like if you're trying to park on the street, you can get lucky, but it's pretty tough to do. So here is the entrance to the area I was talking about, where it kind of goes all along the creek. You can see a creek right here, but this is where we're at. So great little bar, or sorry, not bar, brewery here called Scout. And they have all these seating, tables right here along the creek. So awesome spot to grab a local beer or burger or whatever. And you can just see like great art on the wall, like just a really neat spot. And as we kind of continue on, you'll see the other places here behind me, all the different, restaurants that have their seating. So we'll just make our way down through here and conclude our tour down to the end here, but don't leave yet, because you'll see right there, that's my spot that I was talking about. Osteria Labricola. Can't come to Ashland without going there. Seriously, my last 2 birthdays since we've gone for dinner, it's spectacular. You will not be disappointed. So in the little alleyway that we passed on the other side is right back there too. So yeah, so this is all Creekside tables for dining at these different restaurants, like Louie's and some of the others. There's just good spots. So number 1 is the hippies. Okay, so a lot of people talk about how Ashland is just full of hippies, and it's not really entirely true. I mean, there are some hippies there, but you're not going to get, a lot of crazy people running around. Not that hippies are crazy by any means, but you're going to see some hippies kind of in the park every now and then, and like a little circle playing a drum, and there's some dreadlocks, on the streets, people walking around with dreadlocks, those kinds of things. I don't know why that would ever be a problem. But if you do poll people, and this isn't just my own opinion, right? If you poll people in Southern Oregon, you ask, what are the worst parts about Ashland? They're going to say, some of them are going to say the hippies. So I would be remiss if I didn't include that on this list, and I want to just get it out of the way. But personally, I don't have any problem with the hippies. I think they're awesome. To each their own. Everybody's just peace and love and all that stuff, and nothing wrong with that in my mind. So number 2 on the list that you have to know about, and you need to just avoid Ashland altogether if you can't handle this type of stuff. But the City Council of Ashland is very aggressive, and I would say kind of doing a little bit of overreach. And that's something to definitely be aware of. And so, for example, they have tried to really push like their personal views on the entire city. And so rather than telling people, hey, if you don't want natural gas, if you think electricity is a more efficient, more environmentally friendly, fuel, you should use electricity instead of natural gas. Instead of that, they're saying no natural gas at all for new construction, and that's what they're trying to push. And so I think that that's a little bit aggressive for a city to take a stance like that, and set something that's a limit for the all of the residents of the city are not allowed to use it, right? Like, I don't think that that's right? So they've also done similar things with fire scores, saying that you can't sell your house unless you have your home scored for fire danger or environmental sustainability and efficiency and those sorts of things. And so anyways, not all of those things have gone through and passed and are in place, but they have definitely tried on those things. And I think that's just something to be aware of, is that the city of Ashland itself is very aggressive in trying to push their own views on all of the people of Ashland. Some of the people of Ashland, of course, agree with them, and that's fine. But I know that there's a lot also that don't agree with them jamming, their agenda down everybody else's throat. And so that's something to be aware of if you're considering moving to Ashland. Number 3 is the location. Okay, so beautiful location, right? Nothing wrong with the location, but what you need to be aware of is that it's actually pretty isolated. So from the rest of Southern Oregon. So 13 miles from Medford. So if you want to get to Costco, for example, you're looking at probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes to the airport, 15 minutes to the hospital in Medford. There is a hospital in Ashland, but the one in Medford is a bigger hospital. And a lot of the doctor's offices and stuff are there. There's also, again, plenty of those things in Ashland itself, but the main medical hub of Southern Oregon is in East Medford, and that's probably about 15-20 minutes away. So a little bit of a haul if you're wanting to get to any of those places. And in terms of the location, Ashland is super close to California, like 10 miles. And so that's, not a great thing, I don't think. That was a joke, obviously. Hopefully that made sense. But the last thing about the location is that the elevation is higher slightly than the rest of Southern Oregon. So you're coming out of the mountains, If you were to follow Interstate 5, it comes up over the pass, comes down. The first town you hit is Ashland, and so it's a little bit higher elevation than the rest of Southern Oregon. And as a result of that, you end up with a couple degrees cooler on the hotter days, and then also a couple degrees cooler on the colder days, right? So if you're a little higher elevation and we're in the middle of winter, you might get a little bit more snow in Ashland, but still not significant. Number 4 is the cost, right? So Ashland is just expensive, especially compared to the rest of Southern Oregon, all right? The rest of Southern Oregon is very affordable relative to, where most people are moving here from, California, Bay Area, Southern California, all that. Very, very affordable. And Ashland will look very affordable to you folks that are moving here from out of the state. But if you're from Southern Oregon, you live in Medford or Grants Pass, and looking at Ashland, it's definitely more expensive than any other part of Southern Oregon. Maybe Jacksonville's close, but it's going to be more pricey in Ashland 9 out of 10 times. So property taxes are a bit higher there, and there's just some other additional taxes like food tax, fast food tax, and different things like that are geared towards making some additional revenue based off of the tourism that we see in Ashland. And so that actually brings me to the 5th thing that you need to be aware of, which is the tourism. Okay, we do get a fair amount of tourism in Ashland due to things like the college, right? There's people that come in to watch football games or sports or whatever. There's also more so the Oregon Shakespeare Festival that brings in a lot of people. The various other arts, same with the Ashland Independent Film Festival. So those types of events bring in a lot of people, and people just want to come enjoy the beauty of Southern Oregon, and Ashland's a great place to do that. So coming here to see the wine country and all that, a lot of people tend to stay in Ashland and use that as their kind of jumping off point to go to tour all these really beautiful vineyards that we have around Southern Oregon. And they stay in Ashland because the food's better, because there's nice hotels, and there's a lot of fun things to do. So tourism is definitely something you need to be aware of if you're considering moving to Ashland, Oregon, because it's definitely there and it's pretty consistent year round. Number 6 is that people can kind of tend to be a little uppity, a little snobby. Not really a lot of that going on, but it can, the Ashlanders can, some of them, and this is probably true for any other area too. So I'm not trying to pick on Ashland here, but it's, when you get into the more elite neighborhoods, you have a lot of people who, are wealthier and stuff like that, and they tend to come across a certain way sometimes. And so trying to be very careful about this, not generalize everybody, but there's definitely, I know I've had some experiences myself out there where people have kind of like stuck their nose up at other people and stuff like that. So anyways, not something that I would be worried about per se, but when you get into, maybe think about wherever you're living, if you go into the very, highest end neighborhoods or around you, what are the people like there, right? Are there any people that kind of are a little uppity, a little snobby? Probably more so than some of the other, more average areas of the town, right? So I don't think this is any different than any other area. It's the same when you get into the higher end neighborhoods, really anywhere from what I've seen. So not really a big deal there, but just something to be aware of that goes along with the expense and all those sorts of things. Number 7 is that Ashland is a college town. That's right, home to Southern Oregon University, which is a beautiful campus. The Raiders, they are a NAIA school. There's a lot of sports that they have there, and a lot of really good programs at the college, everything from nursing to all sorts of different arts, to criminal justice, to computer science, business, all sorts of great stuff there. So obviously with that college in the town, you're going to have a lot of college students, and again, not a bad thing, but definitely something that you need to be aware of before you move to Ashland, Oregon, is you need to know that it's a college town, okay? And so being a college town, it comes with certain things. You're gonna have a lot of younger people out running around, making bad decisions like everybody does in college. But you just need to be aware is that there is a college in Ashland, and there are college students in Ashland, and it's definitely a college town, and for better or worse. And I think it's a good thing because it brings a lot of culture to the area. But however you want to view that, if you're looking for something that's like a really quiet area or something like that, you maybe would want to steer towards a part of town that away from the college, right? Something to just be aware of. Number 8 is the traffic and the parking. Okay, I'm going to lump those together, and it's really more about the parking than it is the traffic. Okay, so if you're trying to get downtown, you're trying to go to the plaza, go out to dinner on a date night, you need to really think about your parking situation, and maybe just pick up an Uber if you live in town instead, or walk if you're within walking distance, whatever the case is. But it's definitely an issue trying to park in downtown Ashland, especially on a busy night, Friday night or Saturday night. You can definitely be parking a ways away and having to walk. So something you need to be aware of is that, and especially on days where it's, you know, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival is going, if there's a play there or some other big event, it can be really difficult to find parking in the downtown area. So something you need to keep in mind, but the traffic really not that big of an issue. You do have kind of the main drag through Ashland Main Street, and that does get fairly busy from time to time, especially when, you know, you have a lot of tourists and people out walking and stuff. There's, you know, a lot of kind of stopping and letting people cross and those sorts of things. So it just does take a little bit more time to get through Ashland relative to, you know, or comparison to the other cities of Southern Oregon. But this all, you know, kind of goes with the territory of having a lot of people walking around, a lot of tourism, and a lot of, you know, fun things to see in town. Like that's what brings the people out, right? So just to be aware of, parking is definitely difficult. Traffic is not really that big of an issue. The people from California are watching this are probably like laughing, thinking traffic in Southern Oregon. We don't really have any, honestly, but it does get a little congested. So that's our version of traffic, is what you see when you drive through downtown Ashland. So there you go. Number 9 is that Ashland is pretty hilly. Okay, hilly meaning like there's hills and stuff like that all over, and it's kind of built on a hillside. So that's great for views, because you can be up on the hillside with a beautiful view of the mountains on the other side of the valley. It's great for that, but it's something you just need to be aware of if you're looking for a nice piece of flat ground to have a garden, or to, you know, whatever, you teach your kid to ride a bike. There's parts of town that are nice and flat, and there's parts of town that go all the way up the hillside, and that's where you get those views and everything. So just something to keep in mind is that really anything kind of up, which I guess would be to the west of Main Street, that's going to be pretty much up on the hills. To the east, in between Main Street and I-5, most of that's going to be pretty flat. So if you're looking on a map, or you're looking at any of those websites where you can search for homes, mine's a pretty good one, buyingsouthernoregon.com. You can check out all the, you know, different listings on that. Anyways, those are the areas that you'd want to take a look at if you're looking for either flat ground or if you're looking for a nice view property. Now, number 10, this is the one that I was telling you about at the very beginning. This is a huge one because it has to do with the water, okay? And water is obviously critical. You have to have water. If you don't drink water, you're gonna die. I've heard, I don't know, I'm not a doctor. Anyways, the water in Ashland is terrible, okay? And what I mean by that is I'm talking about the Lithia water downtown, all right? The water that comes from the city itself is fine, as far as I know, okay? The public water, public utility, not talking about that at all. I'm talking about Lithia water, okay? If you go downtown to the plaza, what you're gonna see is a fountain there, and it's called the Lithia water. It's mineral water that comes out of the ground, and it's disgusting, okay? It's funny though, because it's kind of like a rite of passage. If you come to Ashland, you gotta try it. And there's people that you'll see there filling up their water bottles and taking that stuff home because it allegedly has lots of health benefits and that kind of stuff. I mean, I'd rather be sick, honestly, because if you drink it, you're gonna feel sick because it's disgusting. So that is the thing I wanna make sure you are aware of, is that you gotta know that that stuff is there. If you're thinking of moving to Ashland, Oregon, you gotta go try it. You have to experience it so that you can have your own, you know, input on whether you think it's gross or not, and whether maybe you've already tried it. If you have, drop a comment in the comment section and tell me what you thought. Did it cure your illness? Did it taste great? Did it taste gross? What did you think? I'd be very curious to find out. So, and I'm going to tell you exactly what Ashland is known for, okay? And that is the culture, all right? So Ashland, Oregon is a very cultured, you know, artsy town, and that's what it's pretty much known for. That's kind of the reputation around it locally and everything. It's very artsy, lots of art galleries. It's home to Southern Oregon University, and so as a college town, you tend to get a lot more of that type of stuff going on in the town and in the general area. And so not only is it home to Southern Oregon University, which brings a lot of culture and those sorts of things to it, but it's also home to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and that is an amazing production play type venue that does all sorts of really, really cool Shakespeare plays and various other types of plays as well. But it's a world-renowned Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and it's something that you absolutely have got to check out if you're interested in that type of stuff. You've probably already heard of it if you're interested in that type of stuff, honestly, but it is absolutely incredible and something that's worth certainly checking out if you're in Ashland. But that is another just a prime example of the type of thing, you know, that gives Ashland that, you know, really cultured, artsy kind of feel, okay? In addition, we also have the Ashland Independent Film Festival, okay? That's another really cool artsy, culture kind of thing. And there's countless, and I mean countless art galleries that you could cruise on the streets of the plaza and walk around and check out all of those things, and see, you know, art from local artists that, you know, are paintings and photography and sculptures and just all sorts of really, really cool stuff there. So that's definitely the thing that Ashland is known for. I would say the profile of, you know, the type of person that, you know, is kind of the typical Ashlandite would probably be more that kind of wealthy, kind of retiree, maybe a retired doctor kind of a person. And so if you picture that in Ashland, you kind of can start to see like what it's well known for, you know, that cultured kind of higher end type of a town. Politically, it's actually another thing that it's known for. You know, the politics in Ashland are pretty liberal, and that's something that, you know, especially locally, Ashland's known for that. You know, it's known for being the liberal hub of Southern Oregon, because Oregon in general is a pretty liberal state. Obviously, if you've looked at a political map, it's generally a blue state, but Southern Oregon and really everywhere other than like Eugene and Salem and Portland, everywhere else is very red, okay? And that includes Southern Oregon, where Ashland is home to. But Ashland is that one little kind of hub of it all that's very, very blue. So within Ashland itself, it's a very liberal city within a very conservative county within a very liberal state. So here we are talking about politics, and I feel like I jumped the gun there. We don't even know each other, and I'm just going straight into politics. So why don't I introduce myself? I'm Brian Simmons with the Buying Southern Oregon Real Estate team at eXp Realty, and I'm a licensed real estate agent here in Southern Oregon. So if you are one of those who's thinking about moving to Southern Oregon or relocating here, retiring here, whatever it is, I'd love to help you. Or even if you're a resident that lives here currently and you're thinking about buying or selling locally, reach on out. My phone number is 541-954-7758, or you can shoot me an email, and you can find that down in the description of this video. So let's continue on, and I'm going to tell you another thing that Ashland is really, really well known for, and that is the natural beauty and the climate, okay? So Southern Oregon in general has what we call a Mediterranean climate, okay? A lot of people think of Oregon and they think, you know, rainforest, right? Portland type rainforest, or Seattle. They're all, you know, known as the Pacific Northwest, which is really wet. But we are very different down here, okay? So Ashland and Southern Oregon in general, the Rogue Valley, has a much more Mediterranean style climate, okay? We're a lot more like Northern California than we are like Northern Oregon. And we're just kind of in this kind of perfect little zone, in my opinion, where the weather's fantastic, okay? We have about 200 days of sunshine a year. Highs in the summer are usually in the 90s. They can get up higher than that. We can get into the hundreds for sure. And in the winter, we're pretty moderate, and we get highs, you know, in the 40s with lows. You know, they could get into the 20s or teens, and I've seen maybe a single digit like once or twice in the 30 years I've lived here. But it can happen, right? Like, it just is what's not typical, okay? So typically we have, you know, right around the freezing mark in the mornings when it's, you know, wintertime, and then right around, you know, the 90s in summertime for our highs then. So it's very, you know, moderate and temperate. It's really, really good weather. So it makes it a great climate for being able to go out and do things, okay? We have, like I said, 200 days of sunshine a year, and so there's cloudy days, of course, but we don't have that much rainfall, okay? I don't remember the exact number of inches, but I know it's not a whole lot. You can Google that and see the exact number yourself, but I'll tell you what, it's so insignificant that you can go out and do a lot of really, really fun things outdoors. So if you're into hiking or biking or any of those types of things, the climate is fantastic for that, and we'll talk more about those things here soon. But climate, again, is one of the great things that Ashland is very, very well known for. And those same conditions that make it so desirable for folks wanting to live here also make it very desirable for plants, okay? So a lot of people that come to Ashland or live in Ashland are very interested in gardening and you know, creating really nice yard spaces and those sorts of things. And so that's one of the things that Ashland does you know, a really, really good job of, even as a city, is ensuring that the city is very green, okay? You'll see a lot of trees, and if you go into Lithia Park, which we'll also talk about here shortly, you'll see a lot of plants all over the place, from big old, you know, redwood trees to really cool, you know, Japanese maples. And if you go into the Japanese garden there, you'll see some even really, really incredible stuff, even more incredible stuff there. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I want to talk a little bit about some of the facts and history of Ashland to just kind of set the stage a little bit more. So Ashland, Oregon is a city of about 20,000 people, and we're about 16 miles north of the California border right on Interstate 5. So if you look at a Google map and you type in Ashland, that's exactly what you're going to see. But we are at the southern end of the what we call the Rogue Valley. So you come on I-5 up over the Sea Pass, and you come into the Rogue Valley, and this is big, beautiful valley. And Ashland's at the southern end of that valley at an elevation of about 1,950 feet. So it's one of the higher, it's probably the highest city really in the Rogue Valley. It's higher than Medford, higher than Grants Pass. And with that, it is a little bit cooler, probably 3 to 5 degrees cooler in the summers, and a little bit cooler in the winters. So the snow level tends to get, a little bit more snow in Ashland than it does down in the valley floor, Medford and Grants Pass. So being on the southern tip of the Rogue Valley, Ashland was actually one of the first towns that people came up to in Southern Oregon as they were migrating up from the the gold rush in Northern California. Ashland was one of the first places that saw settlers come to it. Okay, Jacksonville was first, and then it was Ashland was the second, probably the second place to be settled in Southern Oregon. Okay, because it was all right around the early 1850s. I think Jackson was 1853, Ashland was 1855 when they created the post office there, and they named it Ashland Mills. Okay, so after the fact, some years later, they dropped the Mills part off of it, and it just has gone on known as Ashland. Because of that history, you get a lot of historic buildings, a lot of places that are on the National Register of Historic Buildings and those sorts of things that are protected, and really, really cool. And so also a lot of older homes from the early 1900s and stuff that are beautiful, with ornate detailing and all those sorts of things. So lots of really, really cool stuff, involved in the history of Ashland, which is awesome. A lot of fun to see those things. One of the things that's really, really incredible to see in Ashland, and again, it's also historic, is Lithia Park. Okay, and Lithia Park was established back in the early 1900s, I think 1908 or 1910, somewhere around there. And it was designed actually by the same designer as the Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. So lots of really unique history around, the Lithia Park and the discovery of Lithia water, which is mineral water, and, the plans there to create, a business around it and bottle it, and, all sorts of cool stuff. Like, so when you're in Ashland, there's a plaza right there in the middle of town, which I'll show you when I show you a map of Ashland. But the plaza has a fountain where you can drink the Lithia water, and it has a little plaque there that talks all about the history. So a lot of really cool details there about the history of Ashland and just some little facts and figures for you. But now I want to change gears and let's talk about the cost of living in Ashland. So I'll start by saying Ashland is probably the most expensive part of Southern Oregon, okay? And so that starts to sound like, might scare some people away, but let's put that into perspective, okay? Because if you talk about it in comparison to the other parts of the West Coast, Ashland is actually really affordable, okay? So if you compare, to the nation, it's Ashland and Southern Oregon in general sits at just 6% above the national average in terms of cost of living, which takes a look at everything from housing to grocery costs to transportation costs and all those sorts of things. So 6% above the national average. And again, that includes the entire nation, okay? All the East Coast, the Middle America, the West Coast, the whole ball of wax. But let's look at where most people are moving to Ashland from, and it is, of course, California and Washington and Arizona, right? And so if we look at Seattle, it's 58% above the national average in terms of the cost of living. Portland's 28%, San Francisco is about 145%. And I know LA and San Jose and some of these other cities are all pretty similar, but they're significantly more expensive than places like Ashland, Oregon, and the rest of Southern Oregon. But the main thing that's significantly less expensive here is housing, okay? And so again, like I said, Ashland in comparison to the rest of Southern Oregon, the housing is on the higher end. But if you're looking at it in comparison to parts of California, parts of Northern Washington, like Seattle, the housing cost here is quite a bit less. And so, for example, the median home price in Ashland is around $600,000. But if you wanted to look at, brand new construction, you can find a nice 3-bed, 2-bath home in Ashland in the sevens, maybe even a little bit lower. Or, depending on the area of town, you could obviously go a little bit higher and get into the 8s and 9s for a nice new 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. If you go really fancy, you can get even, significantly more than that. You can get into the multi-millions if you look for a place up on the hill or in one of the favorite neighborhoods, which I will talk to you a little bit more about here shortly. Another big thing to know about Ashland is just the sense of community. Okay, so if you think about Ashland as a town, it's 20,000 people, right? So it's not a big, huge city where you're going to run into people that you have, no idea. Like if you're living in Ashland and you go to the grocery store, you'll probably bump into people that you know. If you go to the Ashland Food Co-op, I'm sure and you're a regular there, I'm sure you'll start to get to know people, get to know the cashiers and all those sorts of things. And it really has like a nice small town feel for being 20,000 people and the third largest city in Southern Oregon, okay? And that should give you an example of just how small Southern Oregon really is, because across Jackson and Josephine counties, we only have 300,000 people and 20,000 of them reside in Ashland. So we talked earlier about how politically Ashland is pretty liberal, and that's actually something that kind of lends to the sense of community, okay? There's a lot of like-minded people in Ashland who care about the same types of things, whether it be, the environment or, the Ashland Food Co-op, for example, or just whatever it is, right? There's a lot of people that just have the same beliefs, and that's, a big fabric of the community. And so the environment is definitely one of them. And so in Ashland, you're going to find a lot more people who are into the solar scene. They'll put solar on their homes, and who are into like really, just sustainable living and all that kind of stuff. And it's great. And so if that's something that's important to you, it's, in Ashland, it's important to a lot of people. And so you probably fit right in with all those common interests, okay? Another thing that adds to the sense of community in a weird way is actually the tourism. So you don't really think about tourism being, something that creates a close-knit community, but in Ashland, it kind of does, because Southern Oregon in general is not a very touristy area. And so you get this kind of one hub where there is some general tourism because of things like the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, the Ashland Independent Film Festival, all those things we talked about, even the wine country all around Ashland. It does tend to bring people in, and it's a pretty quick drive up from, the San Francisco Bay Area, all that type of stuff. And so it tends to bring a lot of tourists in from areas like that, right? So there does tend to be actually a sense of community around that, and the type of people who are, supporting that, whether it be the folks that are involved in the restaurant industry, or the entertainment like the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, or the art galleries. There's really a sense of community around supporting those businesses that are, reliant upon the tourists. And so the community does welcome the tourists from my experience. And I'm sure, there's always in towns like that, people who are like, hey, we don't like the tourists, we want to just stick to ourselves. I don't ever really get that sense when I'm in Ashland, and I think it's a very welcoming town. But speaking of the tourism, one of the things that you got to know about if you're coming into Ashland, Oregon, is the restaurants, okay? There's some really, really good food in Ashland. And again, that's something that the community like super supports and is very excited about. And you see a lot of locals out eating, at these great restaurants all the time, I'll say. So for example, Osteria Labricola is one of my favorite restaurants, if not my favorite, probably is my favorite. I'm gonna call it my favorite in Ashland. It's a fantastic Italian restaurant. They do house-made pastas and all sorts of incredible dishes. So that's one you definitely have to check out if you're in town. If you're really into the fancy cooking and stuff, you should check out this restaurant called Moss, which was on the New York Times Best 50 Restaurants list in the entire country. So, that should tell you everything you need to know. It's an absolutely incredible restaurant. And another really fun one is called Alchemy, and they have some very creative dishes and cocktails and all sorts of really cool stuff there. And that's just a great vibe. So all of those places are exceptional, and there's even more. I could go on forever on different places like Mixed Bakery or Sandwich, or the different breweries or the different vineyards around. There's so many different fun places to go for food if you're really looking for that type of an experience in Ashland. Since we're talking about the things to do, let's go into that a little bit, okay? So if you are a outdoorsy type of a person, you're gonna love Ashland, okay? The hiking, the biking, there's mountain bike trails that might be more than you could shake a stick at, okay? There's tons of single track. You could go up to Mount Ashland and ski and snowboard in the winters, and then you could ride your mountain bike up there in the summer and the spring and all that good stuff. Tons and tons and tons of stuff like that to do outdoors. The Pacific Crest Trail is nearby. You could go hike into the Klamath Mountains nearby. You could hike all over the place. You go hike into the Soda Mountain area. You can do all sorts of stuff. There's endless amounts of hikes that you could do right around the Ashland area, okay? And that's in addition to all the walking that you can do in town, right? So Ashland is relatively hilly, and so you'll see, plenty of hills as you look at pictures and stuff of the town. But there's all sorts of great walking paths and trails and stuff in town, all right? And Lithia Park, like I mentioned, is right in the center of town, and it has fantastic walking trails that you could cruise all around if you want to go take your dog for a walk or whatever, and just get a really outdoorsy experience being right in the middle of town, okay? In addition to that, you have the lakes. So like you have Immigrant Lake right outside of Ashland, just a few miles, where you could go kayaking or paddleboarding or even boating and fishing and all the things that you could do there. There's the high mountain lakes like Hyatt Lake and Howard Prairie, Lake of the Woods. All those are just right up the hill. And so just really endless things to do, in addition to the rivers, the Rogue River's right down the road, and there's the rafting and the kayaking and the fishing and all the sort of recreating you can do there. The Klamath River just back into the Northern California, or the Applegate River out in the Applegate Valley, and all the wine tasting and all those things. So seriously, I mean, if you like being outdoors, there are so much to do. It's crazy. And we haven't even talked about golfing. We haven't talked about hunting. I mean, it's endless. There's so much to do. So if you like that kind of stuff, you will absolutely love Ashland. It is the place to be for those types of activities. It's hard to really imagine anywhere that has more of that type of stuff. And I know there's like places that have great hiking, like, you know, maybe more picturesque, really incredible trails like you could get in Yosemite, or maybe, you know, if you're in the Rocky Mountains or something like that. But just the accessibility of it all in Ashland is what's really special. There's so much that's so close, where you could just get on the Pacific Crest Trail and hike to Mexico if you wanted to, or Canada if you want to go the other way. The Crater Lake National Park is right up the road. I mean, there's just so many great things to do for the folks that love to be outdoors, which again is something that really, you know, has the community, you know, is rallied around as being a very outdoorsy, very active, very cultured type of community. So it's all, you know, all of that fits into it very, very well. So now that we're talking about fitting into the community, I'm going to tell you some of the neighborhoods that you might fit in too, okay? And so to do that, let me actually hop onto my computer, and I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to show you some of the actual lay of the land and where these neighborhoods are. I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of a lay of the land here of Ashland, Oregon. So you can see this is Southern Oregon. Grants Pass is over here, Central Point, Medford over here, and then Ashland is way over here down here on the south, and this is California all down here. So if we zoom out, give you a little bit of the view there. We are going straight into Ashland right here. Okay, so I'll give you the lay of the land here of Ashland. So you have Interstate 5 here that goes along, and I'm going to go into the satellite view to give you an even better view. But you can see Interstate 5 here goes along, and then Ashland is kind of right along it on Highway 99. And if we go and look at even the 3D view, you can see it's pretty sweet. A lot of mountains and stuff in the area. Mount Ashland is up over here. Right there's a ski area. You get some really cool vineyards and stuff like that over in here that you can see popping up. And then you have Immigrant Lake over in here. But you can see how, you know, I-5 comes up out of California. This is the pass, Siskiyou Mountain Pass, highest pass on I-5. But you can see Ashland's just not very far from California. So, and then as you continue on north on I-5, you get into Phoenix and Medford and all the way out into Grants Pass, way out there in the distance. But I always think that's kind of a pretty cool view to see. So anyways, if we go back and we pay attention to Ashland itself, you'll see that Highway 99 comes right through, and that's kind of the main drag in Ashland, actually. And so the main, you know, downtown part of Ashland is what you see right here. And this is Main Street that comes up, and Lithia Way that comes back down. And so this little section right here is what we call the plaza. And so it has all, you know, great restaurants kind of lining this street here. Osteria La Bricola is right on this stretch, and there's some other great restaurants in these other buildings and some great shops and stuff like that. The Oregon Shakespeare Festival is right here, right off of the plaza, and then you have Lithia Park, which is this whole thing all through here that surrounds Ashland Creek, which is where you kind of see more of these trees and stuff. Ashland Creek goes right through there, it's right through here. Anyways, beautiful park right in the middle of town, and has so many amazing features. I actually talk a lot about that in other videos, so I won't spend a lot of time on that here, but I wanted to show you kind of the lay of the land of Ashland, because there's a couple areas that I talk about in some other videos that I think are worth mentioning here in terms of neighborhoods. And one of them is this area right in here, which is called, I call it just the Granite Street area. And so that's Granite Street right here, has some just absolutely gorgeous homes on it. If we cruise down and check this out, you'll see, I mean, there's some beautiful older homes and all sorts of really, really nice stuff going on here. Look at these nice, beautiful homes. And the great thing is the proximity. You can see, I mean, you literally are steps away from the plaza. So it's very attractive for that reason. All this area is all very walkable to get into town, to the plaza, all the restaurants and everything. So great area there, super close to the Lithia Park, super close to Oregon Shakespeare Festival, the plaza, all of the above. So you can see why, homes in here are multi-millions. But you can actually, find something maybe a couple blocks up that's much, much more affordable, under $1 million and maybe in like the sixes even if you find something up in this range. So those are out there. You can find them. But the other area I want to mention is what I'm going to call the Ashland Hills area. And if we again look at kind of this, more 3D view, you can see that this is a pretty good hill right here. So you'll see, from this hill, you kind of come up off of Siskiyou Boulevard, but that is the Ashland Hills area. And you'll see the view is of the hills to the east. So cool area for sure over here. Also very convenient to be able to get into the restaurants and stuff downtown. If you're over in this area, Terrace Street and kind of up in here where you're going to get the really incredible views, Ridge Road, all this, probably not as walkable to get into town because it's just, going to be coming up and down the hill. But still very close, so it'd be really no big deal to ride a bike in or to just drive in. It's not like you're having to go far, but homes in this area are amazing as well. There's some really, really spectacular places up here that have great views and everything, big homes, and there's also some smaller original homes that can be had in here too. So again, price range in this area is really it's pretty wide variety. Honestly, you can find things in the multi-millions and you could find things in the upper sixes, sevens, that range. But again, proximity to town, very good there. And proximity to all the hiking trails and stuff like that. So if you continued on out this, Granite Street where we talked about originally, you continue on out Granite Street and you get to this Ashland Creek trailhead, and there's so many trails, hiking trails, biking trails. You can even see them on the map here. Look at all these trails that you see. There's tons of stuff available right there. And that's also very accessible from the Ashland Hills area, obviously, as well, as you can see here with these different streets that you can get down there too. So very, very popular neighborhood for those reasons. Okay, so let's cruise over to the other area that I think is really awesome. And that is called the Mountain Park area. So if we were to come out of the hills here and cruise down Main Street here, there's the plaza and all that. The area that I wanted to mention is right over here. And it's really kind of all of this. So this is a great little area off of North Mountain Park. Some beautiful, beautiful homes here. Briscoe, Clinton, that area has some really, really nice homes. And those are going to be in like the 800 range, 700, maybe even in the 9s in some of them if they're bigger. But you have great access to this park over here. Bear Creek runs through. And then this area right up above it is also really incredible. I've seen a lot of homes in here, a lot of new construction going on, and they're beautiful. So I showed, see this one right here is actually built now, and I showed that, and it was absolutely stunning. Okay, and so you're right across from this whole park, the Kestrel Park, and Bear Creek, and so there's walking paths and dog parks and all sorts of really cool stuff there. So I like this area a lot. I think it's nice because it's also convenient in its location. There's a restaurant up here. There's just some different things going on up here, different types of homes, different sizes of homes, some condos. And there's also some of these like Mountain Meadows retirement community, which is kind of like not a full-on like assisted living, but it's one where you could have like a meal plan included in your HOA, for example, your homeowners association fees. So anyways, very cool area, lots of good stuff going on there, and not too far, off the beaten path to get back into downtown. You would just come right down here, just like this, and come on right down, and bam, you're right close to town. So not far at all, but really a cool area. And another one that I like a lot is this part right here. Okay, and so this is called Randy Street is what you see here, and then Coffee Lane, and I would expand that even into this Nevada Street in this area. And here, a lot of like really pretty homes and newer homes that they've built in this area, and you can see the solar panels on a lot of these homes. They've incorporated that into the community when they developed it. But great homes in there, going to be in like the 8s, maybe 7s. And you can even get into these cottages. These are 750 square foot cottages, so very small, not going to be suitable for everybody, but very small cottages that are under $400,000. And so something that if you're looking for just a small space for yourself or something, that's a way to get a nice new home in Ashland at a great location at a pretty affordable price. And so if you're if that's something you're interested in, I'm happy to give you more information about those or any of the others, obviously, that we are looking at. And so one more area that I want to show you is probably the most fancy, most high end of them all. And that is all these areas over here to the east. Okay. And so if we call these, the East Hills, Immigrant Lake, I'm going to show you some of these homes that are absolutely gorgeous. Like, look at this Bellafiore vineyard is unbelievable. I don't know if it'll zoom in and show us the pictures of it, but it's really spectacular. Really cool place. So lots of good stuff there, but there's also just some other homes around. Again, this Irvine and Roberts, great vineyard, really pretty setting, looking up at the foothills over here, going up into the Cascade Mountains. So very pretty out there. And as we go over towards Immigrant Lake, there's even more big homes on property and stuff out in this area where you could have a garden, or if you want horses and those sorts of things. There's a lot of good options for those out here around the Immigrant Lake area. And also even looking at places like these, just as examples of some of the really pretty estates and stuff that you have surrounding the Ashland area in those hills over to the east. And so if you get up here, you can continue on up into the High Cascades. This is Highway 66, which is Green Springs Highway, and that goes up higher into the high mountains, or you can go up Dead Indian Memorial Road, which is also gets you right up into the high mountains. But again, really nice homes in those foothills on both sides, really pretty places, as you can see. So those are my favorite neighborhoods, and now let's go and talk about some of the schools in Ashland. Now that we're back from our little tour of Ashland, let me tell you about these schools in Ashland. Okay, so Ashland is actually, like I mentioned, it's a college town, right? So it's home to Southern Oregon University, which is a liberal arts school, which has all sorts of different programs, from all the liberal arts type stuff, English and history and those sorts of things, to criminal justice, to business, to nursing, to all the arts and those sorts of things that you would expect in a town like this. So lots of great things there from Southern Oregon University, even computer science and those sorts of things. Some really great programs around all that. But when we're talking about schools, I want to actually talk about the schools. Like if you have kids that go to elementary school, okay? So Ashland is its own school district, right? There's the Ashland School District, and they have 3 elementary schools, a middle school, a high school, and even an outdoor school that goes all the way from kindergarten to 8th grade, okay? And so in terms of, the school districts compared to others in Southern Oregon, I've heard a lot that Ashland is one of the more desirable ones, okay? I don't live in Ashland personally, so I don't have any experience with going to it or my kids are going to it or anything, but I know just from talking to my clients who do a lot of research on this type of stuff before they move here, in talking to them, a lot of them say that, they found that the Ashland schools are actually rated pretty high relative to some of the other areas of Southern Oregon. Okay, so I can't say I've heard that any other area is particularly bad, but I would just say that Ashland, they say, is particularly good, and that's a nice thing. So that's what I've heard there. There's some really good resources out there to look at if you're interested in learning more about the schools. Of course, you could contact the school district themselves and review their website and all that stuff. And there's also a website called greatschools.net, I think, it might be .org. But either way, it's a great resource that I've looked at to find a lot of information about the school district boundaries and just the ratings of the schools and the test scores and those sorts of things to get a good sense. But I know Ashland High School, for example, has earned really high marks and is known and very well respected for being a really, really solid school. So check those things out if you're interested in learning more about that. And we're going to move on to one more topic, which is the worst things about living in Ashland, Oregon. And I'm going to dive into that. So what do I think is the worst part about Ashland? Okay, I'm going to tell you, number one, I think that it is pretty expensive. Okay, the property taxes in Ashland tend to be quite high in comparison to other parts of Southern Oregon. So if you buy, a $600,000 or $700,000 house, you could pay $7,000 a year in property taxes. I mean, they could be in that range. They could even be higher. But in other parts of Southern Oregon, if you buy a $600,000 or $700,000 house, you could pay $3,000 in property taxes every year. So it is pretty high for property taxes. And Ashland also has some different taxes that other parts of Southern Oregon do not. Like a food tax, and again, that kind of is related to the tourism thing, and so you get a lot of tourists coming in. They tax the restaurant, the food at the restaurants, and just generate an extra little bit of revenue for the city that way. So it does make it more expensive for folks wanting to dine, but it's not significant. So, but either way, it's there, and so I think it's something that's worth knowing about. The other thing I don't really love about Ashland is the progressive city council. Okay, and what I mean by that is that they tend to really try to push their beliefs, push them on you rather than try to kind of let you do your thing, right? And so what I mean by that as an example is they've recently tried to do a fire score where they require that any town or any house that sells in Ashland has to have a fire score given to it, and they have to meet a certain level before the home can be sold. Okay, thankfully that never passed, but that's something they really, really tried to push. Now they're working on trying to ban natural gas in new construction, and I just think that is, whether that's you believe that and agree or disagree or whatever your belief is on the environmental impact of that, I don't have an argument there on either side of that. I just say I don't feel like it's a city's place to tell you that you can't have natural gas heat in your house, right? If the power were to go out and you're only electric, you have no heat, okay? And that happens. So if you want to have natural gas heat because it's very reliable and all that sort of stuff, like that just makes sense to me to be able to make that choice yourself as a consumer. And if you personally don't want to have that type of heat or that type of source or that type of fuel in your home, great, don't have it, okay? But I just don't know that I agree with the city council trying to make it their position to say that no, you cannot do that here, and I just don't know if I like that. So that's one of the things that I would say is one of the worst parts about Ashland is the city council is a little bit aggressive and progressive with that type of stuff. And the third thing I don't love about Ashland is that it's pretty isolated. It is and it isn't, right? So it's isolated in the sense that it is a little further away from town. It's about 13 miles from Medford, but it's also kind of isolated in the sense that it is the liberal hub in a very conservative county, in a conservative area, in a liberal state, right? So it's kind of this little pocket, and so it tends to have its own culture, it tends to have its own feel and all that, and that can very easily be viewed as a positive thing depending on which way you want to look at things. But I would say that to me, if I lived in Ashland, I wouldn't really feel like I'm part of the greater Southern Oregon area. I would feel like I'm kind of almost, more of an isolated, not an outcast per se, but just kind of like you're on your own little island out there in Ashland, and that may or may not appeal to some people. I don't know. But to me, I love all of Southern Oregon, and that's one of the reasons why I would say being isolated like that would probably be on the negative side to me. But instead of hearing my opinion on what the worst things are about Ashland, Oregon, why don't you hear it straight from a couple of the locals who I interviewed, and I asked them point blank, what do you hate about living in Ashland, Oregon? Here's what they said. Is there anything that you hate about living in Southern Oregon that just really bothers you about the place?
No.
No. I mean, sometimes the winters last a little too long for my taste.
I don't love the rain and the snow, although I know we need it. It's just not my favorite.
I don't say I could say anything I hate. I think the difficulty was like the one-way streets.
There's been some economic decline, and I think it's affecting everybody. But I feel like because of our temperate weather, we tend to attract more transient people.
So, pro numero uno is the culture, okay? That is, if you go into Ashland, you start asking people about what is their favorite thing about Ashland, you're gonna probably hear, first and foremost, that is the culture, okay? They're gonna talk to you about the Oregon Shakespeare Festival and how amazing the plays are there. They're gonna talk to you about the Ashland Independent Film Festival and all the cool things that go on there and how that brings in such a cool crowd. They're gonna talk about the hippie culture, about the different museums like Science Works and the Schneider Museum of Art. They're gonna talk about all that culture, the art galleries around the plaza and all that sort of stuff. And that's something that Ashland is really, really well known for, okay? There's a lot of different types of people there and a lot of different things that are fun to do there. And that's all part of the cultural experience. And that's something that generally comes with being a college town, and that's what Ashland is, home to Southern Oregon University. So culture is certainly one of the big pros that's known for, or that Ashland's known for, and that you need to be aware of if you're thinking about moving to Ashland. Number 2 pro is the food. Okay, so if you live in Southern Oregon, you probably go to Ashland for a date night or for a good dinner, for company parties, for whatever the deal is, because if you like good food, that's where the good food is in Southern Oregon. It's in Ashland. There's a couple little places outside of Ashland that are pretty good too, but for real, if you want the good stuff, you go to Ashland. One of my favorites is a place called Osteria La Bricola. It's an Italian restaurant. It is spectacular. And it's really, really a popular place, really a good place. Also a good one is Moss. It's been super highly rated. I know the New York Times wrote an article about it. I think it was rated one of the top restaurants in the country, if I remember right. But that's the thing, like there are all sorts of different restaurants around Ashland that are absolutely incredible, whether they're fancy like Osteria La Bricola and Moss, or if they're not so fancy like Sandwich, for example, which was featured on the Food Network. Guy Fieri came into town and checked it out on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. But really, you know, spectacular restaurants in Ashland, Oregon, and the nightlife too. I mean, there's a ton of great bars where you can get craft cocktails, or breweries where you can get local beer or ciders or local wines even at tasting rooms. But a lot of that, you know, same kind of mentality exists in Ashland, where on the food scene or bar scene is a lot of the local stuff, right? So local spirits, local wines, local beers, local ingredients. And that's kind of the undertone of Ashland, I would say, is that theme about local sourced ingredients and local, you know, local companies and all those things. It's really one of the things that Ashland's also known for, is just having that pride in the local, you know, community and really like propping up and supporting those products and those companies. Another really nice thing about Ashland is the food co-op, and that's something that I'm gonna lump that into the same food category, but something that a lot of Ashland residents talk about and really love is the food co-op in Ashland. It's called the Ashland Co-op, and again, like same story with locally sourced foods from local farms, local cheese makers, local, you know, whatever, all the local stuff is all there. So if you're into that, go check out the Ashland Food Co-op and you will not be disappointed. Pro number 3 is that Ashland is a college town, like I said, home to Southern Oregon University. So in addition to the cultural little boost that gives to the area by bringing in all sorts of people, it also brings in some fun, right? So you have the athletics that go along with that. So Southern Oregon University has a football team, basketball team, softball, I think there's a baseball team, wrestling, there's all sorts of different stuff, and they've done pretty well in the athletics. So that's something that's nice because it brings in opportunities for Ashland residents to go out and support the, you know, the local team and have some pride in the community and all that, and that's pretty cool. Another thing is that it also brings in that younger generation into the community and just kind of further supports, you know, the diverse neighborhood by having, you know, people that are younger age students, for example, all the way up to, you know, retirees, and it really creates this kind of nice diverse mesh of a community in Ashland, which is really, really cool. Another thing that's really cool about that is the campus is absolutely beautiful. So if you ever are in Ashland, you want to go check out, you know, the Southern Oregon University campus, you will enjoy it because it's kept really nicely. There's a lot of beautiful trees and landscaping and all sorts of different stuff. The buildings are pretty. It's really, you know, a nice place to go spend some time. So check that out next time you are in Ashland. Speaking of being in Ashland, the fourth pro is that there's a lot to do. Okay, so if you're just in Ashland and you're like, hey, what the heck can I do out here? You are gonna not have any shortage of options, right? So for example, you could go out to a bunch of different parks, namely Lithia Park, which is the big one. I think it's 80 or 90 acres right in the middle of town. And it is awesome. There's a Japanese garden, there's a creek that runs right through the middle of the park, there's playgrounds, there's big you know, grassy areas to throw a frisbee, there's an amphitheater, there's trails, I can go on, there's a lot of stuff. I actually did a whole video about that in one of my other videos about Ashland, so you'll have to check that one out if you want to learn more about Ashland. But really a really incredible park. Another park you're gonna want to check out in Ashland is the Railroad Park. That's a cool one. That's definitely worth seeing. And there's a lot of other cool, fun things to do. Like I mentioned previously, the museums, the Science Works Museum in particular is something that's super fun, especially for the little ones. If you have kids, it's kind of like, if you're familiar at all with OMSI, if you've ever heard of OMSI up in Portland, it's really an interesting place to go see different exhibits and learn. And that's what Science Works is kind of modeled after. It has a lot of those types of interactive exhibits where kids can learn all sorts of really cool stuff about science. So that's definitely a fun one to check out. And another big thing about Ashland is all of the outdoor stuff, right? So all the things to do outside. You'll see tons of people walking their dogs just through town and on the roads and sidewalks and that kind of stuff. But there's also tons of trails. So you could go walking or hiking or biking on all sorts of different trail systems, namely like the mountain biking trails up above that go up towards Mount Ashland. Those are you know, amazing. So you definitely, if you're a mountain biker, you probably already know about those, but if not, you definitely gonna want to check those out because they are pretty spectacular. So check that out. Skiing on Mount Ashland or snowboarding, if you're one of those kinds of people, is also really, really fun and right there outside of town. So probably 20-30 minutes out of Ashland and you can be right up there on the top of Mount Ashland. I'm skiing like I did a couple weekends ago and got some really amazing powder. But those types of days happen up there and you can get some great powder or you can get into, you know, some good groomers on other days. But Mount Ashland is a fun thing to do. And there's additional things to do. There's Immigrant Lake, there's all these surrounding vineyards and all those sorts of things. So no matter what it is that you're into, you are gonna find plenty of things to do in Ashland. In addition, I didn't even mention it, but all the stuff in town, like the plaza, there's so many things to do there, like the shopping, the different, you know, restaurants, the coffee shops, all that. You can spend a day in Ashland and it feel like you were there for 10 minutes. It's crazy. Lots to do there. The fifth and final pro of Ashland is that it is really environmentally friendly. Okay, that's kind of one of the big staples of the community is that the people in Ashland really, really care about the city, the cleanliness of it, the environmental, you know, sustainability of it, and all that kind of stuff. So what that will look like is you'll find, you know, electric car charging stations. You'll find in the city's vision, you know, statements about being, you know, eco-friendly and gentle on the environment, all those sorts of things. And so it's really, you know, something that I think is a positive, and a lot of the, you know, Ashland residents think is a big positive, is that eco-friendly, environmentally friendly, you know, priority that the city places on the things that they do there, okay? The buildings that they build, the policies that they have, all those sorts of things keep the environment in mind, and that's something that's pretty cool. Now let's move on to the cons, okay? And again, I'm still talking about the real stuff. I haven't even gotten to the fake stuff yet, so we're gonna get to that again, so just calm down because we're getting there. Con numero uno is the cost of living. So Ashland is definitely the most expensive part of Southern Oregon. It's kind of like actually Ashland, Jacksonville. They kind of go like this every now and then, but let's call it Ashland, the most expensive part of Southern Oregon, because it's quite a bit bigger than Jacksonville. But you're going to be looking at an average home price around $600,000. Okay, taxes are more in Ashland. They have like a fast food tax over there. Property taxes are generally higher in Ashland. Things are just more expensive over there, but that's definitely a con for most people. And the second con of Ashland is it's a little bit isolated, okay? So most of Southern Oregon, like if you're in Medford, let's say, and you want to go to Central Point, it's hard to tell where Central Point starts and Medford stops, okay? But when you go from Medford to Ashland, it's a definite like, hey, there's some in-between space where it's clearly you're getting into Ashland, right? And so it's not as easy if you're an Ashlander or Ashlandite or whatever you call yourself if you live in Ashland. If you're one of them, you want to run into Medford, it's a thing. Like it's like for me, I live in Rogue River, and if I want to go into Medford, it's a 20-minute drive to get into town. It's like you have to think about it. You have to want to do it. But if you're in Medford and you want to go to Central Point or vice versa, it's like you're just hop in your car, drive down the road to there. So Ashland is definitely a little bit isolated. If you want to run to, Costco, it's a little bit more of a drive. If you wanted to, go out to a restaurant and leave all the good restaurants in Ashland and for some reason go to a mediocre restaurant in Medford, you'd have to drive further to do that. But I don't know why you would ever want to do that. And frankly, most of the people in Ashland don't even go to Costco. They typically just go to the food co-op in Ashland. But anyways, if you ever did want to leave Ashland, it is a little bit isolated, which is probably why most of the people don't really leave. It's not just isolated also just location wise, it's also kind of like isolated in political ways, all those kinds of things. Like Ashland's the liberal hub of Southern Oregon, and the rest of Southern Oregon is very conservative. And so it's kind of like when you go to Ashland, you're visiting like a different area, right? If you're in Medford and you go to Eagle Point, it feels like the same thing. If you're from even in Medford and you go to Grants Pass, it feels like the same thing. If you're in Medford and you go to Ashland, it feels like you're in a different area. It feels like you went to Eugene or Portland or Bend. It's like you're visiting somewhere else. For whatever reason, that's how it's always felt to me. Maybe that feels the same to you if you're local watching this. I don't know, maybe chime in the comments down below. But that's something that I've always felt is that you go to Ashland, it feels like you're in an actual like different place. Number 3 is the hippies. All right, look, I'm gonna call it a con that there's hippies. I actually like the hippies. I don't have any problem with the hippies. The hippies just want to love everybody. It's all cool, peace, and all that cool stuff. It's all good. I don't have any beef with the hippies, okay? But here's the thing, all right? That gets back to like the little liberal versus conservative thing that I was talking about. A lot of people will say that the cons of Ashland is that it's kind of more liberal, all right? I don't know whether that's a pro or a con to you, but I know when you talk to other people around Southern Oregon about Ashland, that is something that comes up as a con. Yeah, I love Ashland, I love the restaurants, but there's a lot of hippies there. That's something that comes up a lot. So I'm being honest with you. I'm telling you the good, the bad, the ugly, and that's just one of the things that comes up. That being said, okay, I don't ever see, like I've spent time in Ashland pretty frequently. I can't remember the last time I saw a homeless person in Lithia Park. Whereas if you go to other parks around Southern Oregon, like in Medford, you go to Hawthorne Park, full of homeless people, right? You go to Grants Pass and Riverside Park, it's got some homeless people. You go to Ashland, you go to Lithia Park, none. So there may be hippies in Ashland, and hippies are traditionally the most welcoming to homeless people and those sorts of things, but you don't see any homeless people in Ashland for whatever reason. So I don't know, maybe it's working better for them over there. Con number 4 is the water. All right, now we just need to be honest about this one. The water is terrible in Ashland, okay? And I'm not talking about the city water that you get from your house, that type of water service. What I'm talking about is the healing water, the Lithia Springs water, right? So if you're not familiar with that, you go into downtown Ashland, there's the plaza down there, and there's some water fountains that you'll notice, and there'll be somebody there that'll be like, oh, hey, you're from out of town, you gotta try the water here, it's really, really good. Don't do it, okay? Don't do it. It is disgusting. It tastes like eggs and trash, and it's gross, sour, nasty, bubbly. I can't even tell you, it's the most disgusting thing you'll ever taste. Anyways, don't do it. But there's some people that bottle that stuff up and take it home and drink it. They say that it has healing powers. It has, I don't know what in it, some sort of minerals that's supposed to heal you. I don't know, I'd rather be sick. Honestly, it's because if you drink it, it's gonna make you sick because it's disgusting. So I'm gonna go with the water. It's a big con in Ashland. Healing or not, you can have it. Number 5, last final con before I tell you about the fake cons and what that even means, is the parking, all right? So here's the deal. Ashland parking sucks, all right? If you wanna go downtown and enjoy all those amazing restaurants that are around the plaza, Astoria, Labricola, all the other ones I mentioned, you wanna go down there and have a good old time, go get a caramel apple at the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, go have a cocktail somewhere, maybe a little dessert somewhere else. You want to go do that little Ashland experience. Awesome. Maybe a little stroll around Lithia Park. I don't know. Good luck finding a place to park, all right? Because your walk is going to be through Lithia Park, and it's going to happen because you're going to have to park like a half a mile up the road up in Lithia Park to even be able to get back down to the plaza to be able to go to those restaurants. So if you want to go to a play at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival or anything like that, like, you've got to be ready to either have somebody drop you off at the door or be ready to do a little bit of hiking, because you're going to be parking a ways away most times, okay? Maybe you're lucky. Maybe you're gonna get, one of those front row parking spots. That never happens to me when I park my truck down there. And remind me, I'm gonna come back to that, parking my truck down there, because that's my funny little story I've got to tell you here. But the parking in Ashland is not good. It's a definite con, and it's something you need to be aware of if you're going into town, okay? So if you have a couple vehicles, drive your little smart car to Ashland, leave your big pickup truck at home. I made that mistake, and the reason you want to leave your big pickup truck at home is because the Ashlanders don't like that, all right? And so it's not just that it's hard to park, which it is, but the Ashlanders just do not like your big diesel truck like mine that pollutes the environment and makes them all upset. And so what happened to me when I was in Ashland, I went and met one of my friends from college for lunch, and go out there, park on the street right by the plaza, and go and have a nice little hamburger for lunch, and come back out, and what do I find is a bunch of trash thrown into the back of my truck, my big diesel polluting pickup truck. There's a bunch of trash in there, and it's vegan tortillas, all right? I mean, come on, really? Like, how's that good for the environment, Ashland, to throw your vegan tortillas in the back of my truck in the litter? So I told you I'd tell you about the fake pros and cons. So what even is a fake pro and con? I told you the real ones. What are the fake ones? All right. So honestly, I don't even know. I don't know what a fake pro and con would be. I think it could be, just the rumors, the hearsay of, oh, Ashland's this or Ashland's that. That's kind of the type of stuff you read in the comments, but that's all the fake stuff, right? Like, that's just kind of the stuff people are mad about today. It's, this policy or this or that, those sorts of things, right? That's the kind of the fake stuff. The real things are what I just told you about. Those are the things that you should be aware of if you're thinking about moving to Ashland, or if you're living in Ashland. Those are the kind of things that you would want to know about.
So what do I love about living in Ashland, Oregon? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the cultural scene, okay? Ashland is famous for the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, which is one of the oldest and best regional theaters in the country, okay? You can catch world-class plays at the OSF, as we call it, like Much Ado About Nothing or Macbeth, and all sorts of really great productions. The city really has a thriving arts and cultural scene, offering just a variety of entertaining performances and countless art galleries and loads of musical events throughout the year. It's certainly one of the most beloved, characteristics of Ashland by residents young and old. Next up is just the natural beauty, okay? So Ashland is nestled into the southern end of the Rogue Valley, and it's surrounded by just stunning landscapes, including the Siskiyou Mountains to the south and the west, the Cascade Mountains to the east, and the beauty is just really, really spectacular. I love the grassy foothills to the east with the rocky outcroppings that lead all the way up to the Cascade Mountains. It's just gorgeous, okay? And for an outdoor enthusiast, you can enjoy hiking and biking and skiing and kayaking and fly fishing and so much more with such an abundance of access to public lands and parks. So hiking in particular is one of the things that's really special here, with the Pacific Crest Trail nearby and countless other great trails like Grizzly Peak, Pilot Rock, and several others that are just must-dos. The third thing on the list is the mild climate. So what joy would it be to have all of these amazing things to do outside if you couldn't even get out there and enjoy it? So Ashland experiences a really mild climate with warm summers and cool winters. Okay, it's very Mediterranean-like, much more similar to what you'd see in Central and Northern California, like in the Sierra foothills, more so than the Pacific Northwest rainforest that people, think about in Portland, Eugene, and Seattle, and tend to associate with the entire state of Oregon, which is really just not true. Okay. But having that mild climate makes it really easy to get out and enjoy all those wonderful outdoor activities pretty much year round. Next up on the list is health and wellness. Okay. The city and its residents place a strong emphasis on health and wellness, and it's really easy to find, organic and locally sourced food at stores and restaurants. There's loads of yoga studios, wellness centers, and even a hospital in Ashland. And the overall lifestyle here just promotes a healthy and balanced way of living. Okay, you'll see lots of people out walking, biking, doing yoga, practicing martial arts in the parks, and as a bonus, there's lots of hills. So if you really want to push it and get a good thigh burn going, there's definitely ample opportunity for that. Community spirit is the next one, and Ashland really has a close-knit and welcoming community, and many of the residents often participate in local events like the farmers market or just community gatherings, and end up with really fostering a strong sense of belonging to this community here. And the community spirit is very prevalent when it comes to supporting the local high school athletics as well as the college teams. And that actually brings me to my next point, which is education. Okay, the city of Ashland is home to the Southern Oregon University, which is a public liberal arts college that offers a wide range of majors from theater and arts to criminal justice and business and computer science and even nursing. Okay, so in having this institution provides so much to the town. In addition to the obvious opportunities to further your education, it also offers the opportunity to support your community, like we just mentioned, by cheering on your student athletes, and really just brings in all these wonderful benefits that so many college towns across the United States enjoy. Next on the list is the low crime rate. And so Ashland has a pretty low crime rate compared to the state and national metrics, and it's especially low when you were looking at, violent crimes, which are significantly less than the national average. And if you're living in Ashland, Oregon, who doesn't love a low crime rate? So let's continue to keep it that way and continue to enjoy the nice sense of safety and security for all the residents. So as a local myself, it's hard to mention Ashland without mentioning, eco-friendly values, right? And so Ashland really prioritizes sustainability and environmental responsibility, and that's the next thing on our list, okay? The community actively engages in eco-friendly practices, and there's a focus on preserving the natural beauty of the region. And even the vision statement of the city points to this specifically by saying that Ashland is a resilient, sustainable community. And it goes on to say that we will continue to be a unique and caring community that stresses environmental conservation, fosters artistic expression, and is open to new ideas and innovation. So if being environmentally friendly is important to you, then you will probably appreciate that it is very, very important to the city of Ashland. Next on the list, and probably my favorite thing on the list, is the local cuisine, okay? Ashland has a very diverse culinary scene with dozens of spectacular restaurants with wildly talented chefs like you'll find at the popular Moss, which was recently named one of the top 50 restaurants in America by the New York Times, or like world-class Italian food, like you could get at Osteria La Bricola, which is one of my favorite restaurants, or even the more casual Sandwich, which has been featured on several Food Network TV shows, okay? And frankly, there's so many more great spots in Ashland I could go on for hours, but it really is a wonderful town for foodies. And that brings us to the nightlife, okay? Ashland is probably the only spot in Southern Oregon that I'd say has any sort of a respectable nightlife, okay? Maybe because it's a college town, maybe because there's a good balance of locals and tourists, but whatever it is, Ashland likes to have a good time, okay? There's lots of great bars and breweries around the downtown Ashland area, all within walking distance. There's places where you can go grab a nice local beer or a creative craft cocktail. Say that 5 times fast, creative craft cocktail. Pretty much year-round, you'll find a good time in Ashland, and it culminates on what is probably the wildest night of the year in Southern Oregon, which is the Halloween parade, with tons of people dressed up in amazing costumes and just living it up. The final thing that I love about living in Ashland, Oregon is just the parks. It's that the city is well known for Lithia Park, which is a 93-acre oasis right in the middle of town. Okay? It features walking paths, a really, really spectacular Japanese garden, ponds, playgrounds, and a creek that runs right through the middle of it and provides this really amazing ambiance, just reverberating all throughout the park. It's incredible, okay? And I include a lot of raw footage of that park in a video that I'm going to share a link to here in a second, so be sure to check that one out. So those were the 11 things that I love about living in Ashland, Oregon. Now, here's the plot twist. I don't actually live in Ashland, Oregon, but I live very nearby, and I've called Southern Oregon my home for over 30 years. I have many friends and clients who live in Ashland and love living in Ashland. So I feel like I've enough experience in the area to tell you 11 things I love about the area. So I just had to make sure that I came clean and was honest with you about that I don't actually live in the town myself, although I have and continue to spend a lot of time there. So anyways, hope you'll forgive me for that one, but just wanted to be honest with you there. So before I forget, here's the link up here to the video that I referenced earlier that shows you around some of my favorite spots in parts of Ashland, including Lithia Park, the Southern Oregon University campus, and of course the downtown plaza area. So be sure to check that out next.
There's so much to this town. There's absolutely something for everyone, as you'll see shortly. From the world-renowned Shakespeare Festival to the beautiful Lithia Park that I'm standing in right now, to the great restaurants and shopping and absolutely endless outdoor recreational opportunities like skiing Mount Ashland and mountain biking the Ashland watershed. So settle in, and I want to show you what makes Ashland, Oregon one of the most recognized and rewarded small towns in the West. So I am here in Lithia Park, which a lot of people refer to as the crown jewel of Ashland, and for good reason. It is 93 acres of beauty in the middle of town, and it's loaded with just incredible landscaping and scenery, including this super zen Japanese garden that's just so peaceful and beautiful. You can hear the sounds of Ashland Creek running in the background and the birds chirping, and if you're looking for a place to just mellow out and do some thinking, it's hard to imagine a more perfect place than this right here. So let me show you some of the other parts of this really incredible park. I think you're gonna love it. So I absolutely love this part of the park. The big mature trees are so impressive, and you can hear the sounds of Ashland Creek again in the background. On the walk over, you may notice a couple of the great features of the park here, like the band shell for concerts, the playground, the creek access points to be able to go play in the water. And if you can believe it, there's even more that we didn't see, like the pickleball course and the tennis course. There's multiple duck ponds, and in the winter there's even an ice skating rink. It's pretty clear why this is referred to as the crown jewel of Ashland, right? Let's go check out the center of town, which is called the Plaza, which is just right down the way here. So I'm gonna turn the camera around and we'll walk on down there. So the Ashland Plaza is popular for a number of reasons. There are just countless phenomenal restaurants and bars that border, which you can see some of those behind me. And I'll tell you a few of my favorites in a second. But it's also famous for the Lithia water, which comes from a spring that is loaded with lithium oxide, which is said to provide incredible health benefits. And as good as they say it is, I'm here to tell you it tastes absolutely terrible. But if you're visiting Ashland, you have got to try it. It's like a rite of passage. I tried it about 25 years ago and that was plenty for me. But maybe you'll love it, and they actually have a fountain to fill up your water bottle with it if you'd like to. Now, speaking of way back when I was a kid, one of my favorite things to do was to come to the plaza and go to the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory for a caramel apple, and that's still here, and it is an absolute must-see store. It's actually a must-smell store because the smell of chocolate and all the goodies in there is just fantastic. A couple other of my favorites here are the restaurant Osteria La Bricola, which I hope I didn't butcher the name of that, but it is a very, very good Italian restaurant. There's the Mixed Bake Shop, which is right down here, which is a bakery and a coffee house. And then there's the Scout Tap House, which is a great place to grab a cold beer and a bite. So let's go ahead and continue on Main Street up here. And I've got something really special for you folks who are into the arts, so stay tuned. So I'm here now in front of America's first Elizabethan theater at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And if you're into theater and plays, this is absolutely something that you're going to want to check out. They do all sorts of different types of plays between the Allen Elizabethan Theater and the Angus Bomer Theater right below it. Ashland was actually rated one of the best top 10 small arts towns in America because of places like this right here, and all the countless art galleries filled with incredible art, a lot of it being from local artists. So the arts and culture are definitely alive and well in Ashland. That's something I think is important to explain. Ashland is a college town, home to Southern Oregon University, and like most college towns on the West Coast at least, it's pretty politically liberal. And it's definitely, the most liberal part of Southern Oregon, and maybe really the only liberal part of Southern Oregon. So I'm not here to say whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, but I'm here to provide you with an accurate overview of Ashland, Oregon, and I'd be remiss if I didn't provide you with that information right there. So speaking of information, let's go and take a look at some of the best neighborhoods in Ashland. So I am on Granite Street now in Ashland, and this is such a wonderful area. I'm actually on the lower section, which is just a stone's throw away from the plaza and Lithia Park, which makes it a super desirable destination and location. So for that reason, the homes on the market here right now are kind of in the range of like the million, just over $1 million, all the way up into the multiple millions, like the $4 million range. And that's because they're just stunning homes in an area that is desirable now and always will be because of its proximity to all the different amenities in town. So Granite Street actually extends quite a ways up there beyond, past me, another mile or so, to the Ashland Creek Trailhead, where you can hike and mountain bike for miles. Now, another nice thing about this location here is that it's actually not far away from the Ashland Community Hospital either, which is probably it's just under a mile, let's say. And it's part of the Asante Hospital System, which has been named into the top 15 health systems in the nation 10 years in a row. So I'm going to show you one other really cool part of Ashland, one of my favorite neighborhoods, right after I show you how cool this beautiful home is right behind me, which is one of these big, expensive ones that is just stunning. Absolutely beautiful, and that's a good representation of what you can find here in Ashland. A lot of these older style homes that are just very well maintained and beautiful. So a lot of those styles homes, and also the really modern energy friendly green homes are around as well. So we'll go ahead and check out that other neighborhood and head that way now. So we're out near Coffee Lane and Randy Street, and this is a new development that I wanted to show you because it's just another part of town that's a little more practical of a neighborhood, okay? And this neighborhood is full of a lot of newer homes that are built in 2022 and 2023. They're around 15 to 1,700 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath, and most of them sold in the mid 600s, although there were a couple that sold in the 7s and even one in the 800 range. But what I love is that they did these little 2-bedroom cottages that you see behind me, and adding these, they made it a lot more affordable for a lot of people. You can get into one of these for about $389,000 if there's any left by the time you see this video. So if you're wondering, is Ashland, Oregon a good place to live, or should I relocate to Ashland, Oregon? A lot of people are clearly saying yes, and that's what's contributing to the prices that I just mentioned. But with that, you get some of the best schools in Southern Oregon, like Ashland High School, for example, which was ranked in the top 15 in Oregon not long ago and continues to get really high marks for testing and college readiness. So speaking of college, you have got to see the Southern Oregon University campus. It's gorgeous. Let's go check that out. I am here at the campus of Southern Oregon University, which is absolutely gorgeous. The school here is a liberal arts school with a variety of programs from business to criminal justice to nursing to all of the arts that you can even imagine. And the athletics here have been pretty impressive too, with several national championships recently, softball this year most recently, women's wrestling, and I know when they got one in football not too long ago. I think it was in 2014. At any rate, I mentioned that we were in a college town here, so I had to come on out here and show you a little peek of it, and I thought what better place to come hang out and tell you a little bit more information about Ashland, Oregon. So let me explain. The population here is just over 20,000, making it surprisingly one of the larger cities in Southern Oregon, behind only Medford and Grants Pass, with an elevation of 2,000 square feet. What? Sorry, that's 2,000 feet of elevation. If you can't tell I'm a realtor, now you can. But being at 2,000 feet makes Ashland among the highest towns in Southern Oregon, behind Medford, which is around 1,300, and Grants Pass, which is closer to 1,000. So on those snowy days, which we don't really get a whole lot of, definitely going to get a little bit more here in Ashland than you're going to get in other parts of the valley. In the coldest months of the year, the average high is going to be around 47 degrees, and in the hottest months of the year, the average high is going to be around 88. But I know what you're asking, which is, does it rain a lot in Ashland, Oregon? And I'm going to tell you, no, it does not. Only about 20 inches per year, which is about half that of Portland and Seattle, and about on par with Sacramento, California. So I have one more spot I'd like to show you, so let's cruise on over there and check it out. Welcome to the last stop on our tour of Ashland, Oregon, and what better place to cap it off than a fantastic local vineyard like Irvine and Roberts Vineyard. This place is absolutely incredible. The scenery is top-notch, the wine and the food are remarkable, and it is a must-have on your list of things to do in Ashland, Oregon. Look at those mountains behind me. Those foothills go all the way up into the Cascades, and they are just incredible. So while you're making that list of things to do in Ashland, a couple other things that I really think you ought to check out are skiing on Mount Ashland, or skiing at Mount Ashland, I guess I should say. The mountain is about 30 minutes outside of the town of Ashland, so real easy to get there and convenient and close to town. Just outside of the town of Ashland, actually really close to the vineyard here where we're at, is Immigrant Lake, where you can go boating and fishing and paddleboarding and kayaking and more. It's really an awesome place. And just up those hills behind me is the Cascade Mountains, where you can have endless opportunities for hiking and camping and exploring. There's loads of lakes like the Hyatt Lake, Howard Prairie, Lake of the Woods, Fish Lake, and I'm sure there's probably even a couple others that I'm forgetting. But the city of Ashland is just known for just the diversity that it has, the diversity in activities that it has, and there is no shortage of things to do no matter what it is that you're into. If it's outdoors activities or foods or the arts, there's just so much to do here, and such a beautiful setting to do it in.
Hey, I know we covered a lot and there's a lot of information to digest in that super guide, but if you have any questions, I just want to tell you, please do not hesitate to reach out. You can call or text me directly. I'm Brian Simmons with the Buying Southern Oregon Real Estate Team. My information is right there down below on the screen, or you can find it in the description of this video, but please don't hesitate to call, text, email me directly, and I'll be more than happy to help you any way I can. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.